I've spent the past 10 minutes wandering around my room, putting my phone in various locations because I film on my phone, trying to find the best filming location. And I'm back where I started in 2 videos ago. If you're new here, my name is Leanne and I make videos every Sunday and every Wednesday. If you've been here for a while, I now make videos every Sunday and every Wednesday. Structure. Today I'm going to be talking about the authors whose works I would like to complete. I'm mainly talking about their novels and stuff here. Some of the writers I'm going to be mentioning also have poetry, and I think that's a different subject matter altogether. I'm just going to be talking about novels. So this is a kind of TBR of sorts, but it's not pressing or imminent. I'm not in a rush to get through any of these writers' works. It's kind of just a goal for me over my lifetime. I'm going to start off with some writers that I think are really important to be familiar with if you are interested in the literary canon. If you have been following my channel for a little while, you may know that it is one of my goals to finally get around to reading some Jane Austen. I started off by reading Pride and Prejudice, and I wasn't super crazy about it, but it was definitely enough to motivate me to keep going with my goal and keep reading Jane Austen's work. I also have this Penguin Popular Classics edition of Emma, and this different Penguin Popular Classics edition of Persuasion. Austen also has 3 more novels: Northanger Abbey, Sense and Sensibility, and Mansfield Park, so hopefully one day I will get around to completing all of those novels. Next up, I want to complete all of the novels by the Bronte sisters. So far, I have read 1 novel by each of the 3 sisters. I have read The Tenant of Wilful Hall by Anne Bronte, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And I love this cover of Wuthering Heights so much. It's the only one of the Bronte's books that I actually own, so I would really like to acquire some more. I did have a really old battered copy of Jane Eyre, but I decided to sell it on. I would also really like to complete the works of George Eliot. I read Middlemarch during my second semester of second year university, and I really enjoyed Middlemarch. It was very, very long, but I did enjoy it. I think she has 6 more novels and a significant amount of poetry, but like I said, poetry is another thing altogether. Next semester, I'm going to be reading The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot, so I will be trucking along with this goal. I also want to complete all of the work by Virginia Woolf. I read A Room of One's Own either last month or the month before, I can't remember. It's in a wrap up somewhere. Room of One's Own is a piece of non-fiction, so I would really like to get around to some of her fiction work. I have another Penguin's Popular Classics edition of Mrs. Dalloway, and I would really like to get round to her other books, Orlando and To the Lighthouse, as well. Moving on to some more contemporary writing, and I would really like to complete the works of Karen Joy Fowler. I read We Are All Completely Beside Ourselves earlier in the year, and I enjoyed it so much. I actually did a full book discussion on this book, but it is full of massive spoilers, so only go and check it out if you have read the book already. Karen Joy Fowler has published, I think it's 6 other books, including Sister Noon, which I'm super excited to get to. How beautiful is this cover? And the Jane Austen Book Club. And this is where it gets complicated, because before I read the Jane Austen Book Club, I want to complete all of Jane Austen's novels. Next is one of the authors I'm probably most intimidated by, purely because they have published so many books. In saying that, I've already read 4 of their novels, so I think that's a pretty good point for me to be at. And that is Jeanette Winterson. I have already read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, Sexing the Cherry, Written on the Body, which my friend is still borrowing, and The Stone Gods. But Jeanette Winterson has published loads of books, including The Power Book, The Passion, Wait, so many more, and that includes literary fiction and like YA. I also really like to complete the work of Ali Smith. I have read There But For The and Girl Meets Boy and How to Be Both, and I got all of those out of the library. She has also written a few other books, including The Accidental, which I would really like to get to soon. Moving on to some predominantly young adult stuff now. I would really like to finish up reading all of Rainbow Rowell's books. I have read Fangirl, Eleanor and Park, and Kindred Spirits, and I would really like to get to some of her other books because I really enjoyed these books. Soon I'm hoping to get to Carry On, which is the spin-off from Fangirl, but she also has other novels such as Attachments and Landline, which I will get round to eventually. Next, I have 2 YA authors who it is very likely I will actually complete all of their work this year. Their published work thus far, I'm sure they're going to write other books. Starting off with Louise O'Neill, who wrote Only Ever Yours, and I thoroughly enjoyed this feministy dystopian Handmaid's Tale meets Mean Girls kind of novel. She has also published a novel called Asking For It, which is about rape culture and is set in Ireland. So I will be getting to that in July, and I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm not sure if looking forward to is the right word. I also really want to complete all of Holly Bourne's novels. I have already read The Manifesto on How to Be Interesting and the first two books in the Spinster series, Am I Normal Yet? And How Hard Can Love Be? And I've read those all on like my Kobo or Kindle app. I also really want to get to Soulmates this year, and the third book in the Spinster series, What's a Girl Gotta Do? The cover for it is gorgeous, so I will put it somewhere here. But oh my god, I am so excited for this book. It is the book from the Spinster series I have been looking forward to the most. And the final author whose work I would like to complete, I have already made quite a significant dent in their body of work, and that is J.K. Rowling. I have already read everything that she has published under her name, so I have read the entirety of the Harry Potter series and also all of the spin-off books from that series. I've read The Casual Vacancy. Robert Galbraith, however, is a different story. I bought The Cuckoo's Calling pretty much like as soon as it came out. It might have been a week later, and I got this really chunky hardback copy of it, and I picked it up a few times and I couldn't get into it. I wasn't that familiar with crime fiction when I did read it. And I found this copy of The Silkworm really cheap, so I figured I will complete this series at some point. Apparently there's going to be 7 books in this series, so that's slightly intimidating. So they are all the authors whose works I would like to complete. Obviously there are so many more authors, and just because they're not in this video doesn't mean I don't eventually want to consume all of their work, but this is kind of what's in my mind at the minute. As I said, I'm in no real rush to complete most of these goals. It is kind of like a lifetime TBR. If you have read more of these writers' works than I have, or you've read different books from their body of work, then I would really appreciate your recommendations of where I go to next, because I'm not really sure with some of them. This isn't a tag video, but I did get the idea from Jean's Bookish Thoughts, and I would kind of like to turn it into a tag. I find it really intriguing what level of importance people put on different authors and different works. So if you've not made a video like this before, I highly recommend you do so.